So while in this paper, right, so here's what's really, this paper is published in JAR, which is from an audit paper. The difficulty in publishing in JAR is very difficult because JAR tends to be focused mostly on archival financial research, capital markets research. But in this case, one of the things that I talked about in my overview of experimental research is the ability to apply generalize across settings. And this is a paper that demonstrates that, because while they're looking at this they're using the context of complex estimates, and I think it's fair value measurement. What's unique about this, what's important about this is that this could be applied to other settings as well, because it's with the same characteristics: uncertainty, higher risk, very judgment-based, right? So think about, you can apply this research, this question to using audit analytics, or auditors evaluating the outcome of audit analytics, or auditors evaluating information technology control. So very complex areas, right, where there's judgment, and there are a number of areas in auditing where auditors are going to encounter risk assessment is another. So this is an example of their findings that you can apply across settings. That's just not that's just not characteristic in the study that they designed in extent.
Also, last class we talked about the PCAOB inspection, and from the PCAOB survey, they say that a lot of audit failures or low audit quality arise from the complex accounting estimates. So there are two main reasons for this low audit quality in regard to the complex accounting estimates. The first one is because, as Professor just mentioned, because there are powerless uncertainties about the valuation, because in respect to the fair value estimation, there are a lot of uncertainties. And also the volatile financial markets and the emerging securities. The other reason is from the auditor side, because they have some problems with their auditor judgment and the audit process. So auditor judgment problems sometimes will fail to adequately test the data and assumptions underlying management's estimates, and fail to notice incorporating into the analysis of inconsistencies among assumptions, other internal data and external conditions. So they have this management estimate, so intuitive or just professionally, they will just find evidence or support management's estimates to see if it's correct, and if they incidentally present with some other evidence, they may not have an idea to think about it, to think whether it's related to the estimate that they will verify. So the other thing is that they over-relies management processes for generating the estimate. And because this paper talks about the deliberate mindsets, first we will talk about what is a mindset. The literacy mindsets are the set of judgment criteria and cognitive process and procedures that produce a disposition or readiness to respond in a certain manner. And in the literature, they also say a certain mindset can possess for some time. Because this is very important in the method we use later, they just first manipulate the auditor's method, and then continue to do the audit process. And the action phase theory shows that the deliberate and implemental mindsets are helpful to the same phases, because in the manipulation we can manipulate three levels of conditions: the deliberate mindset, implemental mindset, and control mindset. So the deliberate mindset is that you need to decide what action to take, or you need to decide whether an action should be taken. So in the delivery mindset, you need to think a lot, like have a lot of considerations. You need to think the pros and cons of different, like you have to come up with alternatives and etc. And implement mindset.
So with the deliberative mindset, right, it really ties to professional skepticism, right, to auditors thinking more skeptically. So it's having this, which is a bedrock in the audit profession, is that auditors constantly, the PCA will ding audit when they do these investigations and, they're not, they weren't skeptical enough, there's not enough skepticism. And so when you think about the pros and cons, is you're looking at both disconfirming and confirming evidence. You're not just looking to confirm what the client is telling you, that you are bringing more of a skeptical attitude or mindset to resolving issues.
And the implementer mindset, like orients a person to quick decisive action in order to complete the task. It facilitates efficient completion of pre-programmed tasks, such as verification that evidence exists for given management, assertion like first management estimates of fair value. The auditors may just find like the verification that support the management estimate.
So again, I want to point out that it's not saying that one mindset is better than another mindset. There's a place for both mindsets. It's just when you apply. So how should you approach evaluating evidence related to more complex issues such as fair value measurement versus evidence related to more to audit evidence or audit tasks that are not highly judgmental. So for example, fair value measurement is a much more complex task. Evaluating management's judgments, assumptions, and inputs around fair value measurement is a much more complex task than evaluating whether or not cutoff exists, if cutoff is correct. Right? Cutoff is, did we ship these goods, right, before or on 12/31 year end, or did we not? Right? So if we shipped them, we could record revenue. If we didn't ship them, then we can't record the revenue. That's not a complex task. So evaluating cutoff is very simple, right, as compared to evaluating the evidence related to fair value measurement. So an implemental mindset is probably okay in a cutoff if you're evaluating evidence related to cutoff, but not so when you're evaluating evidence related to complex issues.
So this rule has three hypotheses. Auditors in the delivery mindset while evaluating buyer's estimate. So this rule mainly talks about the complex accounting estimate. Buyer's estimate as less reasonable than when auditors not in a delivery mindset. And also they will be more likely to take immediate action on a buyer's estimate. And also they will identify more silly inconsistencies and errors underlying buyer's estimate than well auditors not in delivery mindset, that is in implemental mindset and control mindset.
So let me ask you a question. Why do you think they only looked at biased estimates? What was the significance of that? What do you think?
Why do they use buyer's estimate? So they will see if it will see if the audit quality will be improved. So
I'm sorry, say that again.
if you divide
They make a point of saying biased estimates. Why do you think that?
Because you use bias estimates, you can assume that the audit quality is improved if they assume it's less reasonable.
Assume it's what? Less?
If the delivery master assume the bias estimate is less reasonable, then you will see the audit quality is improved.
Right.
If it's the right estimate, even if you assume it's less reasonable, you cannot see.
Right. So I think you kept, your voice kept going down, so I couldn't hear everything. But the point is, if the estimate is unbiased, then audit quality is not impacted, right?
Yeah.
Right? So it's not an issue for audit quality when it's unbiased. The issue is when there's a bias. That's what we're trying to guard against, that the auditors are making biased estimates, and that's where audit quality and hence financial reporting quality suffers, is when they're biased estimates. So that's, again, making sure you're picking the right context to ask the question.
So there are three conditions that use the deliberate mindset, implemental mindset, and control mindset. And they have 94 participants. They are all audit seniors because for the complex accounting estimates, usually it's audit seniors' responsibility to maintain. And they evaluate, so the dependent variable.
Oh, can we go back? I want to, because we talked about the deliberative mindset, implemental mindset. What was the control condition?
Control condition.
Right, there are three conditions.
Yeah.
What was the control condition?
The control method. The control method.
What's the control method? What did they do in the control condition? Everyone read the paper, so control. What's the control condition? So everybody did read the paper? Oh, okay. I thought everyone was supposed to read the paper prior to class.
Couldn't have been all.
Oh,
Yeah, I read that now.
yeah, you can. You're in a PhD seminar. You're supposed to read all the papers when they're assigned. So look it up. What's the control condition? Go to the experimental methods, and they'll tell you what the control condition is in the paper. Now, please. Anyone find it?
The server, the control condition. They just had the control condition because it complete the implementable mindset prompt after completing the case material in order to equalize the timing of false conditions.
So usually, the control condition is that they're not prompted, because in this case, right, in terms of you have to, this is something that they're manipulating, right? So they have to put the auditor in either deliberative mindset, an implemental mindset, right? And then you want a control condition that auditors, like you assume that firms are not putting auditors in any mindset now, right? Or the mindset is very generic. So the control condition is what represents, if you don't give the auditor any kind of prompt, here's how they would respond.
And so there are three hypotheses. So there are they are dependent variables. So dependent variables, they evaluate the resemblance of the fair value of the client's business unit for use in step 1 of the client's goodwill impairment test. So the specific case is the goodwill impairment test. So the goodwill impairment test is a step 1 test. First, you will estimate the fair value of the firm and compare it with the book value. If it exceeds the book value, then you will now need to impair the goodwill. So you need to estimate the fair value first, and to evaluate the fair value of the company, you need to make assumptions about the firm's revenue projections, expense projections, capital expenditures, and the discount rate, because they use the discounted cash flow model to evaluate the fair value of the company. And the also present like information necessary to identify because the city like inconsistencies. So the manipulation is that for the auditors that are manipulated to have a deliberate mindset, they were instructed to consider the possibility of doing an international rotation with their firm and to list 3 pros and 3 cons of doing such a rotation, to encourage them to deliberate about the merits of such a rotation. Just as I explained earlier, that what is a deliberate mindset? You need to consider, you need to decide what to take and whether this action should be taken. So you need to consider whether the international rotation, you will like adopt this international rotation, and then you also need to find some like evidence to support it or disapprove it. And auditors assigned to the implementer mindset condition was instructed to assume that they have already adopted this international rotation, but they were just asked to list 6 steps that they would take to obtain a rotation, thus encouraging them to think about how they would implement a strategy to obtain such rotation.
So what's the difference between the two? Like, why do you think one promotes a deliberative versus an implemental mindset?
Because the first is like uncertain. You need to think more broadly and to get more evidence. Like for
Right.
the second one, that you already accept the fact that it should be done, but you are just to do like more processes to like steps with steps. More
Right, so it's more, the first one is more judgmental, the other one is more prescriptive.
So they mentioned like actually in the literature for the manipulation, like the participants are given no task. They need to think for their own to come up with a situation they will like make a decision. But they say because they want to short the duration of the responses, so they just give this example to them.
Right, so you have to, the point here though, is that you have, and this is generally how it's done in psych, right? And so in psych, it's putting that person, before they perform that, read the case materials, is putting them in that mindset, right? It's unrelated to the task, and that's what they, the research shows that if somebody's in if a person is in a deliberative mindset or implemental mindset, that mindset will carry over to another task that's not even related, right? Because they're primed to think that way, right? They're primed to think in a deliberative mindset versus an implemental mindset. So priming them, this is called priming them, whereas the person who's in the control condition, they just start working on the task.
Professor?
Yes.
I have a question. So about the last condition where there is no mindset, they say it's no mindset, but how do you know that they're actually not in a specific mindset? Is there some other mindset they could be in?
It could be, but they're not. So, but what you're doing is controlling. So your control group, you have no, you just want to see, are they different? You're not making any, you're not trying to make a statement about what mindset they're in. You're just trying to say, okay, this is how it tends to, without knowing what mindset they're in, right? You're just trying to say, is there a difference between the control group and these other 2 mindsets? And that's all you're trying to see. You're not drawing any conclusions about the control group in the terms of, well, they're in this particular mindset. And, one of the things you can determine is what if the control group, for example, is no different from the deliberative mindset. You can't really say that they were in a deliberative mindset, but it would be that they seem, how they approach things, that they seem to be consistent. So that's why they would collect other pieces of information and try to discern what's going on with if the control group is showing signs, and I can't remember in this paper if they did, of being in a deliberative mindset and approaching it.
They kind of assume on average, like, you're not in a specific
that you're not in one of these 2. That you in the control group, you could be in, because you're not priming them. They could be deliberative or they could be more implemental. You don't know. You're not measuring, or you're not priming them. So you just look, because in the audit practice, right, we're not priming audit. You know, you don't say to the auditor, okay, when you go in, consider this. But standards could do that, right? Audit standards could try to put, and in fact, I read a paper last night that someone's looking at prescriptive auditing standards versus more judgmental auditing standards, or auditing standards that encourage auditors to think more critically and evaluate information. So the auditing standards could play a role. So this would be informative to standard setters. It could play a role in terms of how auditors approach and think about auditing particular areas, especially more complex areas. Or audit firms can, you know, in their audit procedures, you know, talk about, okay, in auditing, you know, fair value measurement, these are the things that we want to consider. You want to, you know, they can give them guidance. And so they can give them guidance that will then put them in that deliberative mindset.
So the deliverables is 3 deliverables. First, they need to validate the reasonableness of the fair value, and they use 11 Likert scale. So, and the same about what action audits would take, and the specific reasons we should support in this decision. So after the have the case materials, and they need to conclude whether the fair value is reasonable, or they will just continue to audit work on this assumption that fair value is reasonable, but delay for me upon concluding and then talking to the manager about these issues. The manager is on site, or they just do not make a conclusion but just call the manager immediately regarding the issues that they may indicate the fair value is not reasonable. So for the 3,
Can we go back to that for a minute? Okay, I just wanted to, I missed something there, but I see, okay.
they actually have 4 options, but they say no, like just 1 person or 1 person choose the last one.
What
So
was the last option?
4
That's
is
what-
that the fair value is materially overrated.
It's materially,
Overrated.
okay, so it's
Overstated.
overstated,
Yeah,
materially overstated.
And so the panel A is the purchase statistics. On the right side, you will see like the score of the reasonableness of the fair value, and you will see the deliberative mindset get the lowest score. So the authors with the deliberate mindset think the fair value is less reasonable than authors in other 2 conditions. And for the verse analysis, and they compare the deliberate mindset group to the control group and also to the implementer group. They find like significant difference between their view of the reasonableness of the fair value estimate. And as regard to what actions they would take, so in the deliberate mindset group, like 28 out of 38 authors just decide to contact the manager immediately, while 22 out of 36 of the implemental mindset authors just decide to contact the manager immediately. And also the contrast between the deliberate mindset group and the implemental mindset group is significantly different. Also, for the reasons for the decision, they categorize the issues into 4 groups, like target issues and other connecting issues and other issues, and the issue like supporting the fair value estimate. So the target issues include the 4 city issues that indicate the problem with the fair value. So for the deliberative mindset group, they just have like have more target issues and more total value issues as regard to the fair value estimates. And the comparison between the deliberate mindset group and the implemental group is also significantly computational analysis because you can interpret the result differently. Let's say it's now that auditors in the delivery method, they work hard because sometimes if you work harder, the performance will also be improved. So they say that it's not because they are working hard, but because they are thinking differently. And they also like evidence that auditors target the underlying assumptions with errors because they have 4 assumptions: the revenue and the expense and capital expenditure and discount rate, because the buyer's estimate is only in 2 in the revenue projections and the capital expenditure projections. They say if the auditors with the delivery method, if they are like totally in general more conservatively but not like more critically, then like in the 4 assumptions will in general be more like different than those in the implemental mindset than are in just in the 2 in buyer's estimate. So they only find like evidence in the revenue projections and capital expenditure projections. So it's because that auditors with the delivery mindset are just targeting the assumptions with errors. And they have a lot of different methods. And the third one is evidence on mediation of effect on delivery method computation on resilient risk assessment. They use 2 paths to the assessed resemblance of fair value. So the link one is that delivery mindset is identification of target issues. So if you are with auditors with delivery mindset, you are more likely to identify the target issues because the coefficient is positive and significant. And the link 2 also support that if the auditors with delivery mindset, and you will have a more critical discount rate because the coefficient is negative and it's significant. And also the link 3 and the link 4, and they also just use to say if delivery mindset to the assess reasonableness of fair value and its different is not significant. So it's through this mechanism that proves the auditor's performance. The limitations of the paper is that because, as mentioned, the participants are audit seniors, so they say maybe the audit experience analogy may be an important boundary condition of effective delivery method in audits of estimates. And also because they first manipulate the auditor's mindset and then they conduct the auditing process. So even they say that the mindset can process and it's irrelevant of the task, but you cannot see like how long it actually exists.
So what do you think is meant by the first limitation? What do you think they're trying to communicate there?
So maybe under the same manipulation, the junior auditors were not performing the same way as the audit seniors.
As that more experience, will this deliberative mindset, does this generalize to people with greater level of experience? Like, so for example, are managers and partners just naturally based on experience? Do they just have the experience drives them to have a deliberative mindset?
Yeah, like I think like how hard it is to manipulate the person. If they already have like a long statement mindset.
Right. So again, right. So how it would that if they ran this experiment with the exact same with more experienced people, partners and managers, would they see the same? Would it matter? Or is it possible, could you even cause managers and partners to think in an implemental way in this task? Or is it that their experience just makes that automatically causes them to be, that they approach problem solving very differently, right? So maybe they approach these issues with a deliberative mindset already. It's just an outgrowth of their experiment. And that gets to your question about, with the control group, are they just in a particular mindset? So this is the case where, experience might not produce the same results.
Yeah,
Maybe
even
not, I don't know.
Even if they are likely to manipulate when they are instructed to do the case, but they may change to another mindset very quickly because they have
Right, and it's hard to capture that in an experiment, right? You have to capture it over time, right? How does it persist? And it's harder to capture that.
And even if they find this result, how to apply it, this result.
How to apply?
If a deliberative mindset could improve the audit quality as regards to the complex accounting estimates, in reality, how could you meet the
right.
auditors?
So that's what I was trying to get at with the earlier question, is that it's informative for practice, right? In the sense that in developing standards, you can develop standards that guide auditors to think more deliberatively. In other words, think more critically. Audit firms could devise checklists, or not even checklists, but firm documentation. And audit documentation as you're auditing, fair value measurement, this complex area. You kind of need to think, so guide them in terms of wording their guidance so that it causes auditors to think more critically. And so there are things that, no, they're not going to have something that says, okay, you're thinking about a rotation, think about this now, go audit. It's how it helps them think through how they can design audit guidance to put auditors in a more deliberative mindset.
Then you will just have different guidelines because in some situations a deliberate mindset is more helpful, but in some situations
Right, so you would want to focus on those areas where auditors are tending, where judgments are less than optimal, let's say, such as more subjective. So would you need to put I don't think you need to guide auditors and say you should have an implemental mindset when you're auditing cutoff, because that's a low judgment task for them. Most auditors understand, I would say all auditors understand cutoff, right? It has a control been met, yes or no? These are the guidelines for evaluating this control. Has it been met, yes or no? Right? There's not a lot of judgment there. But what they would then focus on is guidance, because that's where auditors tend to have the most challenges with their decisions and their judgment, is when you have more complex issues that are more subjective or more judgment based. And so it would be in those situations where firms or standard setters will look to provide more guidance. Any questions?